Shalom and welcome to our daily update. We're here summing up the events as part of our coverage of the Protective Edge counterterrorism operation in the south. We're here speaking to you today from central Israel, not far away from here. A rocket, the remains of a rocket fell. This was happened around late afternoon today. The rocket was intercepted by the Iron Dome missile-to-missile system. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this afternoon was interviewed on Face the Nation on CBS and Fox News, and he answered in English questions about the counter-terror campaign.
You know, here's the difference between us. We're using missile defense to protect our civilians, and they're using their civilians to protect their missiles. That's basically the difference.
More than 24 red-color sirens sounded in central Israel today as Hamas terrorists fired a major volley of rockets at Israel. Rockets were fired at Tel Aviv, Bat Yam, Ashqelon, Rishon LeZion, Ra'anana, Kfar Saba, Hadera, Netanya, and other communities. At least 2 rockets were intercepted over the skies of Tel Aviv and Bat Yam by the Iron Dome system. In addition to the rockets in the center, red-color sirens sounded in Haifa and in Nahariya in Israel's extreme north. The Nahariya alert turned out to be a false alarm. Now, it's important to mention that even in case of a successful interception, it's important to stay in shelters for 10 minutes, and that is because the remains of the rocket, even if it will not explode on land, are very dangerous and could be fatal in case of a direct hit. And we're also hearing reports this evening of a mortar shell, one or maybe more than one, fired from the north, from the area of Syria to the area of Ramat Golan, the Golan Heights. No injuries were reported in that incident. Today we visited the southern city of Ashqelon as the rocket attacks were taking place. Many rockets landed there. There were some that were intercepted. Most of them were intercepted by the Iron Dome system, but there were a few that hit directly in populated areas. As of early Sunday evening, 29 people had been treated at Barzilai Hospital in Ashqelon for wounds suffered during the day as a result of the rocket attacks from Gaza. Of the 138 casualties treated at the hospital since the start of the operation, 86 had physical wounds while 52 had psychological trauma. 8 are still hospitalized, including a 16-year-old in serious condition. He was injured today.
He was injured mainly in his chest. So we treated him, and a multidisciplinary team stabilized him. We've made an imaging, and now he's going to be hospitalized and monitored in the intensive care unit. It doesn't need to have an operation yet, and I hope that by the very professional treatment, we are going to reduce the danger to life as it seems now.
On a visit to Ashqelon today, we spoke also with Deputy Minister MK Ofir Akunis.
Israel will continue to do anything and everything to defend ourselves and to defend our citizens. It's unacceptable that there is 10 kilometers from here, from this city, some terror organizations that shoot on our kids, on our civilians. It's unacceptable, and we are doing whatever is necessary to defend our citizens, and will continue.
The UN Special Refugee Agency for Palestinians, UNRWA, reported today that about 4,000 residents of northern Gaza have fled their homes after the IDF told them to do so starting last night. In addition, about 850 Palestinians with foreign nationalities are leaving Gaza through the Erez checkpoint. 300 of these had already done so by early afternoon. Israeli aircraft dropped leaflets on border areas in northern Gaza, calling on the citizens to evacuate their homes before noon Sunday as it prepared to bomb the area. The IDF warned that those who do not obey their instructions will be risking their lives and the lives of their family. Now, you know, we've been seeing throughout the past few days the documentations of the Israel Air Force's attacks in Gaza. IDF sources emphasize that the army is making extensive use of tactics to avoid civilian casualties in the Gaza Strip. As the operation progresses, the IDF is gathering more evidence that Hamas takes advantage of the densely populated Gaza Strip and civilian population to protect themselves. As Hamas fire rockets on Israel, explain the IDF sources, it systematically exploits Palestinian civilians as human shields for military targets in Gaza. Hamas stores explosives and weapons in and around schools, mosques, residential homes, and other civilian infrastructures. These images, taken by the Israel Air Force, show how Hamas positions its rocket launching sites, weapon caches, and command centers in areas surrounded by civilian buildings. In order to limit the casualties to innocent bystanders, the IDF uses a number of tactics, including precision airstrikes on weapon caches, tunnels, and other terror targets. The Knesset, Israel's parliament, hosted hundreds of kids from the south today as part of the solidarity activities to strengthen those who are on the front line. Knesset Speaker Yuli Edelstein instructed Director General Ronan Plot to invite the children who are living under constant rocket fire from Gaza to the Knesset. Deputy Education Minister Avi Wertzman from the Beit Yehudi party assisted in bringing the children to the Knesset. The children who arrived at the Knesset on Sunday hail from the following southern communities: Sdot Negev, Ofakim, Kiryat Malachi, Even Shmuel, Moshav Eitan, and Kibbutz Sad. They were greeted by the Knesset's tour guides and took part in numerous activities. Among other things, they were given a tour of the Knesset and watched a magic show.
The colorful atmosphere here speaks for itself. We see smiles and happiness of the children due to the hours of calm and relief here in the Knesset. You are my neighbors. I'm a resident of Sheva, and my children and I also sat in a secure space, and it was unpleasant. These days we are marking 9 years since the decision to disengage from Gaza, and 9 years since it was claimed that the disengagement would bring calm. Since then, thousands of missiles have been fired at Israel. I hope that the IDF will win the war so that the children in the south and all of Israel will never have to suffer again.
In Kiryat Gat today, we joined the volunteers of Magen David Adom. Magen David Adom is Israel's first aid service. The volunteers are visiting shelters throughout the south. They're educating the residents of the area on basic first aid procedures and also emphasizing the importance to be careful when rushing to the shelters.
We're going around the shelters throughout the city to let people feel safe. We want them to know that there's someone here to help them. And if we need them, we will use their help. It's important to be careful, to stay calm. There's enough time to run. It's not worth being injured trying to run to the shelter. Everything will be okay if we go according to procedure.
In Kiryat Gat today in the shelters, we also met the assistants of the kindergarten teachers. Turns out that although it's summer vacation, they're not on vacation. They were recruited to help with the kids in the shelters, and they're with them throughout the day. And that's their way of being part of the efforts during these days of the Protective Shield operation.
We come to the shelters and we stay around with the kids. We try to make sure they're not too bored and to make sure that they don't get all stressed. We try to do whatever we can.
Okay, that's all for our daily update today. We'll be back tomorrow with more. But of course, around the clock, you can get all your updates and news briefs and news stories here on IsraelNationalNews.com. Arutz Sheva, thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow.